Gabby here, and today we're doing a team report. So normally I would just say let's hop right into it, but honestly you guys might be wondering, Gabby, why are you doing a team report? And to answer that question, for the few of you who asked, the team report is for the team that I used to win my Birthday Bash tournament. Now for those of you who don't know, the Birthday Bash tournament was an invite-only Series 7 tournament that I hosted in order to celebrate my birthday with one of the games I love most. That being Pokemon, obviously. The competition was tough, and the event was probably the most fun I've had in playing Pokemon in a very long time. Shout out to Professor Ragni, Youngster Jazz, Nina, Pokebros, and everyone else for making this as big and entertaining as it was. I will put links in the description to all their Twitch channels, so you guys can potentially watch all the VODs, and I'll post links to their YouTube channels as well if they do have them. Now, for the reason you came here. And what better place to start than with the star of the team, the Queen of Star, the proprietor of Bleach herself, the Iron Maiden, Celesteela. So going into the event, I wanted to play something I was comfortable with, and given my success with Celesteela in the past, I decided it's probably the best place to start. Oh fuck, wrong slide. Sorry. This set is the set everybody hates. Subseed, Drink Bleach, as my friend Haley likes to call it. Protect, Heavy Slam, Substitute, and Leech Seed. Celesteela is honestly an amazing win con mon that I ended up bringing to every game. It's the kind of Pokemon that you that if you take out or cripple all of the major threats, it can literally carry a game from there. Like 1v4s are not uncommon with this Pokemon. With Leftovers plus Leeches, you can easily recover all the damage you take back from Substitute in like relatively, on average, 2 turns. Honestly, I don't really need to explain this set too much. It speaks for itself. It has an entire season of pedigree under its. You guys know what I'm saying. It's what I'm trying to say here. 228 EVs in HP puts it at about 201. I actually miscalculated the HP stat. I assumed that it would kind of round up, but everything in Pokemon rounds down. So this means that when you set up a sub, your substitute will always have 50 HP. Meaning that no matter what, a Dusclops Nightshade will shatter it, which is one of the things I was trying to aim for. When I realized my mistake and tried to go back and fix it, I realized that in order to reach 204 HP, so my subs would be 51 HP, I learned that I have to go into max HP, so I have to go to 252, which would actually throw off a few of my calculations. So in the end, I just decided to leave it as is. For attack is just to pump a little more damage into heavy slams. You don't really need the slight boost, but I wanted the 4 EVs and speed to outspeed more other non-offensive Celesteelas, because winning the Subseed War in the mirror is important. Like, if they're going for Substitute to stop your Leech Seed and you Leech Seed them first, and then you set up your sub next turn because you're going before them, it's actually very advantageous for you, because then you're healing and they're not. In addition, if you want to set up sub and they're going for seed, then you can. It's honestly just a mind game. I just want to be prepared for those kind of matchups. Obviously, the other Celesteelas can invest more speed to speed creep me, but then I'd know and I'd be able to take advantage of it some other way. It's just the way it goes. The defensive calcs allow you to live max special attack Circuitry Thunderbolt and Thunderbolt from Life Orb Tapu Koko. It also gives you a 44% chance to live Specs Tapu Koko Thunderbolt in electric terrain. For most defensive calcs, I honestly tend to try to calc for the most absurd things, so I'm not too caught off guard. I was honestly hoping I could tank a lot more, but I realized with Dynamax being a thing, I'd have to play a lot more risky, so as a result, I sacked a little bit of both for better substitutes, honestly. The 50 HP subs actually came in handy a hell of a lot of the time, because oftentimes my opponents would hit like 47 damage or 46 damage, or it'd just be very easy to calculate exactly how much HP I'd need to get off a substitute, being that it was 50. So any number I had that was relatively 50 HP, it only came in handy. It only like really came in clutch one time when it was Celesteela versus Urshifu, and all I could do was keep setting up substitutes. But The 50 HP really comes in handy because it gives you a nice benchmark for being able to set up your next sub, because then they won't be able to break it. And the whole Nightshade thing of them hitting you with Nightshade and then you taking a hit doesn't really matter too much, considering you beat Dusclops in the 1v1 most of the time, because you're healing more HP off your Leech Seed and stuff than they are doing to you with Pain Split and things like that. And the Nightshade damage they're going to be doing to you doesn't really matter too much outside of Trick Room, and you have other answers to Dusclops as well, so I just figured, you know what, this is good enough. I tend to be really greedy with my Pokemon, but this is the one of the cases where I literally couldn't ask too much of this Pokemon, because trying to get everything I wanted and still get all the bulk I wanted didn't really matter too much. It was actually more detrimental than it would have been helpful, so that's where I went that way. Celesteela, honestly, tossing Celesteela onto the team. When I first played on the practice ladder for the P-Sim, I realized there's a lot of Metagross, and Metagross. And Metagross was love to weakness policy up, and it always, like, I hated Metagross at the start, but then I realized, wait a minute, I can just Dynamax Celesteela, get three defense boosts from Max Steel Spike, and then I could completely wall out Metagross, Leech Seed it, and then it can't do anything to me for the rest of the game. Metagross doesn't damage Celesteela all that well without its weakness policy boosts and without Dynamax. With Dynamax, it does relatively about 60% to it with a Max Hailstorm. And most Metagross honestly don't have Thunder Punch, and if they do, I can honestly play around that a bit more, because then it just weakens their matchup into Gastrodon, unless they have something like a Soul Fest. But if they have a Soul Fest, they're not going to be doing much damage to Celesteela anyway with Thunder Punch. I consider it more of a soft check. And as I always like to say, you always really need to bring 2 hard checks to Celesteela, typically a fire, an electric type, or something like that, because it really helps your matchup against it, because if they can't, it's a lot easier to kill one Pokemon than it is to kill 2. Anyway, moving on. Celesteela beats Metagross in 1v1 90% of the time. If played well, you can max it, get the defense boost, and then it just walls off physical attackers ignoring it. It actually also helps a lot against Glastrier as well. Glastrier is kind of a fringe case, is kind of a worst case though, because you can kind of intimidate Glastrier as well. You can steal a Chilling Neigh with Skill Swap. You can get the defense boost and just completely ignore it, and with defense boost, it doesn't do any damage to you. Your team's bulky enough to cripple the Pokemon a hell of a lot. If you get a burn on it with Gastrodon, you're completely fine. And there's just a lot of ways to deal with Glastrier, so I consider Metagross more of a threat to the team than I do Glastrier, but you never know. A well-played Glastrier could easily give the team problems. The next Pokemon on our team that we're going to introduce is, honestly, it's Cresselia. It's a mon that literally needs no introductions. It's a very hard Pokemon to kill. It's a very important support Pokemon. It's always been one of my favorite Pokemon that was released in Diamond and Pearl, and you'll always find it on my team any seasons available, except for 2019 being the only exception to that. I used it in 2015, 2016, and 2018 when it was legal. Those formats on 18 to his Gastro Pressure. I'll get to that. I don't really think I really need to get to that, but if you guys want me to talk more about Gastro Pressure, I'll tell you more about it. I don't know if the team still works or not, but I can tell you it's a really fun team to play. It's a Trick Room Icy Wind for speed control. If you're face-to-face landed with Tornadus, you can literally just Icy Wind, taking their taunt. If they are Defiant, they will Dynamax turn 1, and it'll give you instant information in game 1, basically. Though I don't think many Defiant Tornadus are going to want to fight and do a Xurkitree. Because you can honestly use Dynamax, Xurkitree, and Icy Wind, and then smack the freaking Tornadus in the face with Max Lightning and kill it. Now that you outspeed it. Well, you might outspeed it. I never really ran into the situation, honestly, because most of the time I'm over there with Instant and with Instant Crest leads, or Celesteela Crest, which is some of the other potent options you can do, because then they have to taunt Celesteela, because Tornadus doesn't really have a decent way to touch Celesteela. Obviously, if they have a Landorus, you don't want, not a Landorus, a Thundurus, you don't want to do it as much, so there's that as well. Icy Wind also does a good chunk to Landorus Therian. It does about 30 to 40% to most Landoruses if they're not AV. And against faster teams like Sun, you can usually just set up Trick Room to cripple their Venusaur, and paired with your Incineroar, you can shut down their offense pretty handily. Just set up Trick Room, you'll live the Max Quake unless they crit you, and you just spam Snarl every single turn. Like, you can fake out Venu turn 1, go immediately for the Trick Room, and then just spam Icy Wind or switch into Gastrodon. They can't really do much to stop you. Yeah. Where was I? All right. Side Shock and Sidekick are interchangeable. Originally, when I made this crest, I felt it was my team was too weak to physical damage. I felt my team's damage was too weak from the physical side. So if the opponent had a bunch of physical walls, I felt like I would get walled out, which turns out didn't really freaking matter at all. But I honestly just felt like I needed that extra bit of oomph on the physical side. And it didn't really pay out. I've used Psychic every now and then, but I feel like, I've used Side Shock every now and then, but I feel like Psychic honestly would have been better on this Cresselia. It would have helped my matchup against Torkoal a bit more. As you guys, in the finals, I did struggle a bit because I couldn't damage Torkoals very successfully with Side Shock. And I didn't really find myself using Icy Wind that much. So, there's some advantages to Ice Beam and Icy Wind and Psychic and Side Shock. If I were to redo this crest, the current crest I'm running right now has Psychic and Ice Beam because I want to be able to get the kill on the grass types instead of just trying to slow them down. Though I do feel like Icy Wind has its place on the team. And I might eventually go back to it if I find it too big of a problem. And lastly, Skill Swap. Honestly, my favorite move to run on Cresselia. You lose a bit of the offensive crippling usage because it doesn't work on max, but it's easier to navigate around your opponent with your own abilities anyway. You can Skill Swap Levitate onto Incineroar, Skill Swap Cycle Intimidate between Incin and Crest, so you're constantly getting the -1 boost to their defense, to their attack. And you're giving Incineroar Levitate, so people can't just max Quake it so readily. You can Cycle Levitate onto Xurkitree as well. Xurkitree does appreciate that. You have a lot of bulk on Xurkitree, so it becomes very difficult to kill Xurkitree, especially if you have Incineroar crippling their mons as well. You can Steel Gastrodon Storm Drain to take big hits from certain water types. Though it's not that big of a deal. It's a fringe case. If your Gastrodon's about to go down, you can take the Storm Drain and keep the pressure on them. Like if their Combine Fiendi's about to Moonblast and you still outspeed them, you can Skill Swap back. So you can do that. And while I feel like Helping Hand would have been useful as well, I never found myself really needing it. I never found myself in a situation where I needed the Helping Hand boost to increase the amount of damage I'm doing to somebody with a move. Usually, most of the time the Crest was out, it was usually just trying to put off damage with Icy Wind or trying to put off damage with Side Shock to just chip or just doing its thing with Skill Swapping Intimidates. I didn't really find myself ever needing the Helping Hand boosts. The bulky set honestly takes tons of hits. It's meant to take hits, very hard to kill. Most unboosted attacks shouldn't be able to kill your crest. The 12 special attack EVs is to give a little oomph to your Icy Winds and Side Shocks. Though to be honest, I feel like Ice Beam and Sidekick were way better options post-tourney, like I said before. And 12 speed allows you to hit 107, meaning after 2 Icy Winds you outspeed Dragapult. And I know Dragapult is Clear Body, but you can actually Skill Swap Clear Body off of Dragapult, and after 2 Icy Wind you'll know you outspeed Dragapult. It's also a nice thing to hit, because if after 2 Icy Winds you outspeed Dragapult, you'll outspeed anything faster, anything slower than Dragapult as well, so it's honestly a good point to hit. Pheromoses can't really deal with your Cresselia anyway, so I'm not too worried about them. Regielekis don't do too much damage unless they're like Life Orb max special attack, but in that case they're freaking paper and you just one-shot them with most things anyway. A very fringe scenario, I prep for stealing Dragapult's Clear Body allows you to outspeed, and Icy Wind honestly allows you to outspeed Landorus T after 1 Icy Wind, which is the main thing I was going after. It comes in handy. Citrus Berries to stop double up KOs. I had too many fringe cases where I got hit with the Max Darkness followed by another special attack that one-shot my Cresselia, and they brought it like above the point of its Mago Berry, which is really annoying. So I just gave it Citrus. I just said screw it. I threw Citrus on it because most Max Darknesses will bring me post 50% HP, and then I will live the next hit after a Citrus Berry proc. So I didn't bring Mago. Citrus kept Crest alive longer, and it helped me get off Trick Room when my opponent lacks Taunt. That's really it. Cresses, there's not much to say about Cresselia, other than the fact that it's bulky, does its job really well. Icy Wind and Ice Beam I'm still on the fence about, don't know which one I like better. I am currently liking Ice Beam a bit more because I haven't found myself in situations where I need the Icy Wind, especially now that I'm bringing Zapdos out a lot more. Because Dynamax Zapdos just put on a lot of pressure and does give my team the speed boost it needs. So yeah. The next Pokemon on the team that we're going to go over is the Slug, the Boy, the Pressure, Gastrodon. Yeah, Gastrodon really put in a lot of work in the tournament. It was pretty aggressive despite the bulky spread. Gastrodon is honestly goated. I love it so much. Though I honestly should have maxed it more in the tournament. But it put in so much work on its own without it. Storm Drain protects Celesteela and Incineroar hard from Tapu Finis. It forces Tapu Fini to kind of just Moonblast into the Gastrodon slot. Paired with an Incineroar that's just spamming Snarl, you don't really need to worry at all. Scald is there because why not? Just run Scald. You can get burns off on Pokemon when their opponent doesn't have a Tapu Fini. You can you burn flyers anyway, so you don't particularly care, and Scald's just good damage. You also Max Quake Boost can preemptively boost Celesteel's special defense. Max Geyser can set the rain, and Gastrodon's just really good against rain teams overall because they can't use water moves. They can't use rain boosted water moves while Gastrodon's out. And you just Max Quake spam to boost their Spadef. Not much to say about it. Gastrodon really helps up against matchups against Glacier and Metagross because obviously the bulk. It kind of forces them to kind of damage you a bit, to kind of focus you a little more, especially if they have a water type on their team that they want to start damaging your Celesteela. And Ice Beams for that. Oh wow, I really flubbed up the part. Apologies for that. Ice Beams for the pesky Landorus's helps you deal with the Burbs and Earth Power because you match it better to Healing and Torkoal with it. Not only the same spread I've been running since Series 5, just bold instead of relaxed, and it's still putting in work. It has enough bulk with Rindo to live Grassy Terrain boosted Grassy Glide from Adamant Rillaboom, though in order to deal with Kartana, you do need support from Instant or Max Fuel Spike boost from Celesteela, so just keep that in mind. It has just enough special attack to OHKO non-invested Landorus Therian with Ice Beam. And while the special defense isn't huge, taking a few extra hits from some Mons seems like a good idea, hence why I just tossed a Remainder to Spadef. After I barely wanted to OHKO the Landorus T with the Ice Beams. And so I decided to go bold 0 IV speed IVs to underspeed other neutral speed Gastrodons inside a Trick Room, yet outspeed negative nature Gastrodons inside of Trick Room. What is it? Hold on. Outside of Trick Room, sorry, I mixed that up. Basically, I put bold 0 IVs in speed to underspeed other neutral speed Gastrodons inside a Trick Room, but I wanted to outspeed them, negative nature Gastrodons outside a Trick Room. So I wanted to do that. I messed up, oh my god. Can I English, please? Gastrodon, outspeed, slow Gastro. Yes. Gastrodon, Gastrodon, outspeed, fast Gastro, in Trick Room. Outspeed, slow Gastro, out of Trick Room. That's what I wanted to say. It's honestly not necessary at all. Trust me, you can just run 31 IVs in speed, 30 IVs in speed, some other nature if you want to speed creep, you want to be very specific. I just did it because I'm greedy as fuck. And I wanted any answer I can get at a potential stall mirror. I'm honestly just trying to prepare as much as I can for the stall mirror. That's the only reason why I did this. No, honestly, we don't really need to talk about this. The last fourth Pokemon on the slot, it's Incineroar. Incineroar is the linchpin of this entire team. The team wouldn't function nearly as well without it. Snarl plus Intimidate is a freaking really great combo. You could do Parting Shot, although I'm not a fan of Parting Shot. Honestly, it just brings the entire Protect the President strategy together. It needs no introduction. Everybody knows Incineroar. It's a menace. I love it. Versatility with support, powerful stabs, a move that ignores boosts on the enemy team, Fake Out Flare Blitz, Darkness Lariat, Snarl, Assault Vest. Pretty standard, but let's talk about it anyway. Flare Blitz from uninvested Instant actually still hits like a truck. The stab damage plus only 12 EVs in attack does a hell of a lot of damage. Lariat ignores max Steel Spike boosts, which are pretty common this season. It really helps against other Metagross. Especially ones that are just max Steel Spiking for the buffs. For now, for my playstyle, I don't like the Parting Shot. The move is good and Parting Shot Instant is powerful with repositioning, but this isn't the kind of team that you really want to force pivot yourself. You need Lariat to answer defense boosts, boosted Metagross and Cresselia. Snarl hard cripples most of the common special attackers that want to hurt Celesteela. So I didn't feel like Parting Shot was necessary. It's just my playstyle and the way that this team functions. I didn't go heavy on the attack investment because Zapdos forces players to respect the Defiant. Because honestly, Zapdos can just spiral games out of control very quickly if they start proccing your Defiant boosts. And even with only 12 of attack EVs, you still do like 75% to Celesteela with Flare Blitz. And even at -1, it does about 50% before leftovers. This EV spread is literally just a modified version of the common 2019 Incineroar with a bit more speed. I specifically picked 44 speed because a lot of Incineroar were going 36 speed to speed creep on 28 speed EVs Incineroar, aka the most common Pikalytics AV spreads, so I sped crept them. And it honestly worked out a lot. A lot of Incins don't actually run a whole lot of speed investment, so you just outspeed him with the fake outs, so you're guaranteed you're always getting the first fake out. In addition, it's about as much as I can sacrifice without losing my benchmarks. I have just enough Spadef to live a Max Geyser from Modest Life Orb G-Max Lapras, meaning I also have enough to live the most, a non-max invested +1 Feeny Max Geyser. So there's that. Definitely want to hit that benchmark. Honestly, anything that doesn't hit as hard won't bust through its special defense. The defense and HP are standard enough and don't need much explanation. Just a good Pokemon. Brings the entire team together, does its job, repositions without parting shot off, so you just position in and out of it. And yeah, that's Incineroar. Alright, on to the Unga Bunga part of this team. Alright, so circuitry, right, circuitry. Honestly, I preach that every team wants 2 hard checks to Celesteela, usually some fire type and electric type. Well, circuitry is my other Celesteela check. I took this set from Sam Pendelis, aka Zelda VGC, who got 2nd place at Worlds 2017. I took it from that team. I just changed it to a modest nature for more damage, and I only lost around 12 speed. With the amount of speed control in this team, it's really easy to get Zerka to a position where it's one of the fastest Pokemon in play. Its bulk honestly surprised me. Just taking hits like Jolly Wicked Blow from an Urshifu or Life Orb Pyro Ball from Cinderace, shoutouts to Bolt. I also decided to give it Shuka Berry because all of the Pokemon that love to throw Max Quakes around. It lives Metagross Max Quake, makes +2 Metagross Max Quake from EQ a roll, and even Max Quake from Adamant Landorus Therian does an OHKO. A lot of players usually don't bring Landorus T and lead it into Zerk because of the potential Zapdos lead. But yeah, Dazzling Gleam, Energy Ball, Thunderbolt, and Protect. Thunderbolt obviously needs no introduction. Sap Thunderbolt on Xurkitree does a ton of damage. Dazzling Gleam, good coverage. Energy Ball helps with the Rotom Wash, Gastrodon, and Swampert matchups. This team really does struggle against Rotom Wash, so it is a good idea to try to get the Energy Ball into it. You'll honestly just do a ton of damage to Rotom with Energy Ball. What's another thing? Right, I really wish Taillow was in this freaking game. It would make setting up in a winning position so much easier with just Dazzling Gleam and Thunderbolt. Just protect Thunderbolt, Dazzling Gleam, and freaking... Tailglow. If only Tailglow was here. On the practice ladder, Tailglow works so well for me because you just got your opponent at 50-50s, Tailglowed up, and they're just like, well, shit. And then you just like, yeah, what are you gonna do to me now? Oh my lord. Xurkitree honestly doesn't need much special attack investment. It has base 173 freaking special attack. You don't need all that much investment to start hitting things. After one beast boost, you're basically hitting the same power level you were before. I just did modest because I'm a little greedy with my damage. And I'm willing to play a little bit safer to get to play around with the Xurkitree, so... there's that. That's Xurkitree. Here we are. The final member of the team that shocked the masses. Not really. Zapdos was very underwhelming for a vast majority of the tournament. The Celesteela, Crest, and Incineroar and Gastrodon carrying a majority of the team's weight, and Xurkitree coming in to clean up a couple games every now and then when a Celesteela showed up. Zapdos really didn't seem to fit in at all. I was honestly very disappointed with Zapdos for a majority of the tournament. I was honestly thinking about replacing it. The one thing Zapdos showed me though was Brave Bird. Almost one-shot Bolt's Dynamax Galarian Zapdos. And it was in the match with Bolt where I realized, oh crap. If I'm getting my wall shattered, I need a little bit more offense now. And I'm like, oh well, Zapdos is right there. Let's just throw it out there. Why not? And when I played Bolt again in Top Cut, I was nervous. I was doubtful about this working, but I had to adapt, and there it was. Oh shit, wrong slide. Okay. Here it is, my Zapdos spread for the best Furbangy. Thunder is kick over close combat because I don't want to lose any bulk, and in some matchups, the reduction to my opponent's defense helps out with my Celesteela or even with my Ensign. It also ensures that in a Celesteela versus Zapdos matchup, my Zapdos is favored. Brave Bird needs no explanation. Big damage. U-turn for utility because I wanted to smack Moltres and Rotoms with a special attack drop. Also, you can just help chunk Cresselias. And lastly, Detective or Protect because screw Imprison. One thing I learned very quickly about Zapdos is that it subscribes to Bunga, last name Bunga. Very, very, very prominent. One thing it loves to max. Loves to do big damage and honestly shines brightest when its ally is someone who can utilize its powerful offense well. Like, quote, like, Circuitry. Max speed to speed Tyler Zapdos because I lack fast speed control and I want to guarantee outspeed Urshifu. 132 attack with Life Orb does lower damage than 252 attack max attack Jolly. In addition, between 252 and 132 benchmarks, there wasn't anything in particular that I could guarantee with max attack versus 132 attack. The closest thing in particular that I could guarantee with max attack versus just 132 attack was like U-turn dealing 50% to Cresselia, which did not feel worth it, especially since most of the crests have some kind of recovery item. And I have no reliable way to finish them off damage from that range, so I threw 108 HP because it was a tilting point between the diminishing returns, so I threw the remainder into both defenses and just said roll with it. To my surprise, in every game where I brought Zapdos, it pulled through. Now, the one thing I will say is that one thing I learned after the tournament was that the max airstream I hit on Bull was actually a 43.8% chance to OHKO. 132 attack, but even with 252 attack, Life Orb, you may be saying, well, then why don't you just invest max attack or try to go to the point where you can hit that offense? You can't one-shot Dynamax Zapdos with max Airstream and Life Orb, even at 252 attack. It goes to 97.3% chance, which is actually even more tilting. So if even if I didn't pick up the KO on that Zapdos, I still would have killed it. Well, I wouldn't have killed it. Would I have killed it? I probably would have killed it. With Circuitry. After one max Airstream boost. So yeah. It's not too big of a deal, but it's still like, it matters a bit. I just feel like the 132 attack, I got more benchmarks, I got the bulk I wanted out of the Pokemon, so it worked out in the end. Final thoughts with this team. Honestly, I am surprised at how this team did at the tournament. While I feel like the team is really powerful defensively, I felt that the meta would be very aggressive and punch holes in the defensive playstyle of my team like it had in Series 5 and 6, but the bulk and utility of the team had the ability to slow down the offense of other teams and run them out of their resources that they needed to do with Celesteela or put its foot on the gas and just unga bunga with Zapdos Circuitry. Obviously, it's not perfect, and no team really is, but each Pokemon performed its job to the best of its ability, and in the end, we won the event. Common cores I tended to bring were Incineroar, Cresselia, Gastron, and Celesteela, or Zapdos, Circuitry, Incineroar, Celesteela. Obviously, you can change these up if you wish, but usually your core will include Celesteela after all the team is built around to protect its president. Things this team struggles with are Rotom Wash and Urshifu. Urshifu gives the defensive parts of this team a lot of trouble, forcing us to bring in Zapdos. Dealing with opposing Celesteela also makes the matchups a bit awkward, since I usually bring in Incineroar and Circuitry, but it doesn't matter, it's up to gameplay at that point. I updated this team since the tournament, and given Zapdos Stomping Tantrum and Cresselia Ice Beam over Icy Wind, and give it a little more aggression with Psychic. Totally not to do Grass types more often. Totally not. I totally didn't care about getting timer stalled at all. Don't worry about it. A final thing to keep in mind is that when you play Celesteela and games from behind, you are constantly racing against a timer. So killing the threats, setting up your win cons, and preserving mons is more necessary than ever because losing from an unlosable position because of timer really freaking sucks. Totally not from personal experience. Totally not, like I said before. Timer stall didn't affect me at all. Totally didn't bother me in the tournament at all. I'm going to link the rental codes to both versions of the team in the description below, as well as a Pokepaste if you want to test them out yourself on Showdown. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a good day. Laters! Honestly, that was cringeworthy. Let's try this again. Bye.